Hello. Welcome. You guys couldn't hear me the entire time. Welcome back. Sorry, I was muted. But cool. Welcome back. Yeah, so I'm just going to jump straight in. Monthly, we created that top wick, right? We continued to push up. We created that top wick yesterday. And then the daily closed with a no top wick, and then we just started to drive down. But as Don mentioned, we understand that we're in this range. We've tapped into this range, so price just needs to make a decision now, right? Where it wants to go, I don't know, right? I don't know if it's going to fill this entire range going up, and then potentially grab liquidity to start going up, just to flip bullish. And this was just a liquidity grab, right? And then your next kind of buys could be around these levels, right? But until that happens, this is just a monthly candle. We're understanding that it's flipping at the moment, right? We're creating, we're filling the range that's going up. So any given point, expect price to fill up to, there's a little bit of range left, I would say, up to around these areas, like maybe even above here, 38, still a little bit of range there. And obviously you have more range to go up to about 1990 areas, right? So because that's the case, at any given point, the daily creating a bottom wick could just be more liquidity we need to start driving back up, but we don't know. So we're just gonna jump on the lower time frame. But yeah, cool. So the weekly, obviously, first day of the week, right? So it's just creating that weekly bottom wick. At some given point, I'm expecting this weekly to flip, right? Because the weekly closed above this support here, right? You have a support going around these sorts of areas, right? You could say maybe it closed respecting, but I'm going to say it's closing most like it faked out around here. It tapped into these sorts of areas. It's driving up, and the last time it did that, it filled the range towards 1898, right? So I'm expecting at some point this weekly is going to flip, right? And when it does, it's going to look to fill the range going up, right? Towards around 1963, maybe towards 1989. So just understand that might happen, and where are we going to get those bottom wicks if we want to start driving up? Let's have a look, right? That's last time for these candles as well, right? You drove and you tapped into 1957, 1958 as well, right? We haven't tapped there yet, so there is still range to go up towards this level here. And because that's the case, all right, let's have a look at when last time we closed above 1918, so various after tapping here, right? So we have this, and then we also have this, right? We tapped into these sorts of areas before going up, so this is also a pretty all right sort of area. And then the bottom wicks for those areas is around here. Drove up, you didn't quite tap into there, but you broke above and you drove from around these sorts of areas. This wick here, I'd say for this candle you didn't even have bottom wicks, right? You just drove straight, so you might have to look on the daily, but we're still looking for this bottom wick on the weekly. Where is that going to be? It's not very clear, right? So let's jump down to the daily, but I'm just understanding that this could be a full mirror of this push going up. This was enough liquidity obviously to drive us to here. Do we need a little bit more liquidity before we're going up? Yeah, maybe, right? But let's have a look on the daily. Cool. Daily range, I would say you're closing respecting here potentially, maybe below actually. Let's have a look. Let's say just about respecting. Yeah, cool. Because you're respecting, it's difficult to take, like you're just understanding this could be a salary to go up, right? Obviously you don't have top wicks, right? But you're understanding this is the first day of the week. No top wick doesn't necessarily indicate it's not going to flip and then fill the range, right? Still definitely can, and that's what we're expecting for the monthly, for it to flip, to continue breaking up, the weekly to flip, and the daily to flip, right, to re-break these highs. So if we do get that, what are we looking to mirror? Or where do we need to grab liquidity before we're able to drive up further? I'm looking at this, I'm looking at these areas, I'm looking at these areas, also looking at these sorts of areas, right? Every time we tap these sorts of areas, I would say your range is probably, put it here, right? Because then this encompasses all of it. All of these wicks at some point, when it tapped these levels, you started driving up, right? And then you got a closure above, so you get a closure above, you grab some more liquidity towards these areas. Let's say around here, right? Yeah, bottom of the range here. So if you grab liquidity towards 1903, right, for the next daily candle, so if we're closing respecting, if the next daily candle comes down, pushes down to here, and then starts flipping, right, we could potentially get the break of these highs, or on the lower time frame we might be able to get some wick entries, but it's slightly unclear if it's definitely going to flip because of the no top wick. So taking a flip of the candle once it breaks these highs, 33 to go up to 58, is probably going to be cleaner, because it's just one more confirmation, right? But that's what it looks like on the daily. So I'm just going to mark this up as a buy now. We'll buy if we get there. Actually, I'm going to mark this one up. So you see here, we grab liquidity towards these areas to push up and break past this range, right? Then we had a candle respecting, grabbing some more liquidity. You didn't really fill the entire range until you grab liquidity here. And so this is what I'm looking for. So I'm going to mark this level as a buy. Alright, and we're just going to zoom in later on to see what that looks like. Is there any other price point which kind of matches this? Like looking at these, you grab liquidity here, you filled the entire range afterwards, right? So potentially 1878. What do we push from? 1878 is down at these areas, right? 78. At some point you were in these areas as well, probably grab some liquidity to go up. So if it fills the range, we could be looking for breakouts to fill it, going up to 58, even potentially up to whatever. But understanding that it rejected here, came back down, and you see this wick, right? Closed bullish back above after a fake out, giving you another opportunity to enter the market, right? Closed bullish above, right? Even here, right? You closed bullish above, bottom wick towards these areas, 1914, before you were able to drive all the way back up. So there are many opportunities to enter, but it's just if we choose wick entries over breakouts, it's not clear to us yet. Does that make sense? Let's jump to the 4. Cool. 4 hour, I'm gonna mark up some ranges. Yeah, this is actually not bad. This 1903, I think we had 1903 like last month as well, which is a pretty nice range. Day 4 hour closing, respecting this, I would say. It's an alright range. I'd like it slightly higher around here. Still not bad. Not a bad range. So I would say your 4 hours definitely respecting 1920. Right? And I'm just looking at these here. Right? It's very clear here. You have some rejections here. You have wicks tapping these areas. You have some wicks tapping these areas. Right? Celery going up. You have a fake out here coming back down. You grab more liquidity, breaking all the highs to come down, filling the range before you're going back up. So another liquidity grab here. So yeah, this is 1920 is pretty good. Right, so we're in a range between 1920 and what's our next range up? Let's have a look. Let's have a look. I might have to jump to the 1 hour to get this range. I'd like it slightly higher up. It's a little bit unclear on the 4. You could say it's just above all of this, but you also could say it's here. We'll go with 1925 for now, and then the next clearer range overall I would say is towards these areas. Potentially even up here. Let's see what this looks like. Yeah, towards around these areas. So I'd say generally the range you're in is this on the 4 hour. If obviously you can jump to the 30, right? The 30 you're actually below the range at the moment, potentially in this tiny range here. But let's look on the 4 hour for now. So if you're respecting this, last time you pushed up, respected, where did you go? So you could see maybe this, this, right? You respected here, you grab liquidity towards here before you were able to drive up. Let's mark this level up, or the bottom of the range, right? So I'm looking at this, last time price respected 1920, looking to drive up, you faked out, grab liquidity towards these areas, right? you actually filled the entire range first towards 29, which we haven't really done, right? We filled it the first time, so maybe this is the second retest, so maybe it comes back down, right? We're looking for it to go up again, so if you're respecting, you still get bottom wicks towards around these areas. 1914 is still pretty valid. Looking at this and also looking at this fake out. So 1914 is not bad. I'm going to mark this up as well. Cool. Yeah, it's actually looking not bad, right? So if you just look at price, you tapped 1911, or you tapped further. Actually, you tapped like 1908 sorts of areas. So 1908, what does this look like around here? 1906, 1903. Obviously, if you come down to 1903, we're getting buys, right? But 1910 is sort of these areas. So you've pushed up from here, right? Where do you next need to grab liquidity before you're able to go all the way up? If you're showing signs of bullishness, right? I'm looking for it to tap your next, major level that you might reject at or make a decision at is towards 1913, 1914 sorts of areas, right? Understanding that this wick is here, and this mirror is not bad, right? To go up, to push up, because I think if I mark this up as like the overall, and then we go into the daily, this was just the last time price just decided to push up was here, but then you also had this push above to test these sorts of ranges, right? So this is what we're looking for it to push up, and this as well, right? So yeah, so I would say 1914 is not bad, but what do I need, right? So currently if the 4 hours go to close like this, so if the 4 hour comes down, rips down first, I'll look to take a buy here, and then I'll look to take a wick entry to potentially start going up, right? I'm also understanding that on the lower time frames, it's generally it's relatively bullish, I would say. If you do start getting breakouts above here, and then you come down to grab this liquidity, that's even better, right? You're showing signs of bullishness. If you potentially close above these sorts of areas, that's good, right? You haven't really created a lower low, so until you start creating a lower low, and that's like a trickle down, if it starts happening like that, then I'll probably look to take a buy slightly further down. But for now, I would say 1914 is not bad. You'll get some level of rejection. If it wants to drive down as well, like for example this, right? It drives down, you'll be able to get out at break even, because it's a level that gets tapped basically most of the time. And in terms of sells, I don't think we're really looking for sells. You might be able to take the sells to come down to tap 1914, and then that might be towards like the top of these ranges, like 1925, 1926 areas. What happened here? It's towards around here. Yeah, if you get like a top wick anywhere in between this range to here, so between here and here, 25 to 27. So if price, right, at some point, this will take a little bit longer to happen, right? But for example, actually the hour's looking, or it's sort of looking all right, but you have no top wick, right? If you then for the next hour potentially come down, break these lows, you have a bottom wick, and then it comes up to these areas to grab liquidity, I'll look for the sells to come down to these areas to get the buys, right? Because I'm understanding that it might not have enough liquidity to come back down to grab this liquidity to go up, to push up to fill the rest of the weekly range. So I'm understanding that the last time price tapped into these areas, right, 25, 26 sorts of areas, you've rejected, so it's a pretty strong level that you could potentially reject. I'll look for a more specific entry actually for you guys. It's actually not bad. 25.3. 25.3 is not bad. Where's the top of this range? Yeah, 25.3 is not bad. 25.6 is also okay. But yeah, I'm gonna look for around 25.3. And then your stop loss for 25.3 is gonna be, say, probably closer to, oh, that is the wrong tool. This is what I'm looking for. So if you get a sell here, I would say you're probably top wicks around here. 100 pips. Perfect, right? Yeah, that's not bad. So your stop loss would be here. Let's mark this up. Top of this range. Stop loss number. Alright. And then for your buys, I would say your stop loss is slightly bigger. If you get this, I'd probably look to have 130 pips stops. Just because it could very well reject here, and then if you get a pineapple here, you could look to close break even around here, right? If you do, it's not a bad position. It's still, I would take that most of the time. So yeah, stop loss with this one would be around 1901. So around 120, 130 pips. But yeah, and then you just kind of risk accordingly, right? And that makes sense. So you're good. 1903, I'm looking, can you get potentially 1903.8? Just accounting for these wicks as well, right? If you tap that top of this range, which is around here, could be looking good, because this is also just, you know, you're rejecting off of here, right? So cool, that's my analysis for the night. Pretty nice, I would say. You know, the last, I think on Sunday night we were looking for a price to create some structure, right? We just pushed up very aggressively, no structure. Now we have some structure to work with, right? Not that much structure, but I would say generally it's okay, because we're understanding, right, you've ranged around here, so there isn't enough liquidity to start driving back up. This could have been a liquidity grab, but if it was, then you would have seen a much more aggressive push during New York, right? You would have pushed past these ranges and continued, but you came back in, right? You haven't. There's some sort of like range 1, range 2 here, but it's still not really moving upwards. So we're looking for another liquidity grab before you're able to do that. But yeah, that is the plan. Looks good. Looks good. Cool. I'm actually gonna try to unmute some people. Jacob's here. I've only got Jacob.
What's up, bro?
Yo, Jacob. How you doing?
Where were you looking at for your 4-hour sales? I kind of got lost. I didn't see.
4-hour sales.
Or not for your 4-hour, but for your sales.
For my sales, so around 1925. It's like this box between 1925 and 1927. The reason is I'm looking at the 4-hour mirror, right? So we're respecting. So obviously we're bullish, right? But we were bullish and we came up, and we need liquidity to continue driving up, as it's kind of showing on the 30 and the hourly, right? So what is that in terms of, you know, structure? If the next 4 hour comes up, creates that top wick first towards around 25, 27, we're looking for it to mirror this, right? Because last time you were respecting 20 after coming up from these areas, right? If I zoom out a little bit, you're coming up from these areas, right? Rejecting off here, potentially coming up, and then you've respected. So if I get rid of this box, you see a celery, basically you're respecting, right? But you've already tapped 25 once, right? So even in this case, when you tap 25, you rejected for how many pips? Let's say you got in here for, like, this was a 80 pip rejection, but you would have max taken, I would say 40, 50, 45. So the sells here are relatively safe, because we're understanding that if this was a strong enough liquidity grab, you would have pushed, right? If this was a strong enough liquidity grab, you would have just pushed all the way back up, right? But this candle, these two candles also came back down, right, to grab more liquidity before you were able to go up. So I'm understanding I'm also going to look for buys around here, right? But the order of things is very important, right? Sells first, I would say.
And then you would look for the buys?
Yeah, because if I'm just looking for the buys to come, like if I'm first looking for the buys, right, it could be that it's just going to start ripping down, right? Understanding that, you know, overall, if you look on the slightly smaller time frames, right, it's still relatively bearish in the short term. If you start breaking these lows, you're going to fill down to 1914, and if you start breaking below that, there's no indication it wants to go up. So I need the indication, which is going to be the kind of breakout towards these sorts of areas, right, on the hourly, on the 30 or whatever. And then once it's kind of confirmed that, okay, we're creating higher highs, higher lows, and then once it like wants to grab this liquidity towards around these areas, I'll look for that. But that's why I'm looking for the sells here first, because if it comes up to here, you're breaking this wick, you're breaking these highs, that's confirming, another confirmation that this is more of a bullish trend. So once that happens, I'll look to grab liquidity. Sells around here. Where are your pineapples? Let's have a look for pineapples. Like 25 is good, I would say. Your pineapples maybe like 29 towards 30 sorts of areas. Like, let's have a look.
I have like the fourth pineapple, like 1885.387 for buys, but I don't know if that makes sense.
1885.
Or like a third pineapple.
1885 what?
1885.387. But if we were getting down there, we would already probably be.
Yeah, so I would say, yeah,
like,
that's a good thought process, right? Like, does this make sense? Sorry, let's just mark this up as. Oh, my computer is not loving me today. Yeah, so once you come, obviously, right, if you're just looking at structure on the 4 hour, this is your last, I guess, like your last higher high, or your previous higher high. So it makes sense if you're looking at this, right, and then for it to tap here before it goes up. But this is so far away, I'd say, from price. This is 300 pips away. If you are coming down so aggressively, I would rather be thinking, like, at that point, just look at you're back here, right? Sure, you could get some buys here and you'll get some level of rejection, but then you're breaking below these areas again, and every time you break below, you fill the range down, right? You're breaking below here, breaking below here, right? And then once that happens, it looks unlikely that you're going to come back up. Even this, right? When it grabbed liquidity, it didn't go down towards 1885, I think your level was. It was 1878. So if it goes down to 1885, I'd be worried, and I wouldn't take a buy there. Also, like, where was your first position for buys?
Mine is 1913.368.
So around 1940, this area, right? But then where's your stop loss?
Yeah, you see, I didn't even, like...
Yeah, right? So if you're thinking about having a stop loss and including all these pineapples, this pineapple is 300 pips away.
Yeah.
So you can't have that, right? Unless you risk, like, literally close to nothing. But yeah, I would say if it does come down to these areas, we're probably looking for sales to follow the trend. It's going to be like, look at this clean traffic down, right? Once you break these lows, it's likely just going to start ripping down. If you break past 1903 and you don't get a rejection, you might start ripping below. But obviously, if it does come down, it's going to do something like this, right? You might get a rejection here, you get another rejection here, another rejection here, and then here you might start getting that reversal. But overall, what we're trying to catch for these buys is not the whole move, right? We're catching this buys here, we're catching potentially this up to here, and then, you know, if you do get pineapples later on, it'll be difficult. But once it breaks through like multiple ranges, your bias is then is changed, right? And then you just want to go with the flow, because another day like this could happen where you just push, right? And you don't want to be in sells like I was when you're pushing so aggressively. Yeah.
All right. Can I ask you about a position I took?
Of course.
I'm not gonna lie. It wasn't really like. I wouldn't consider it like I planned it, but I wouldn't consider that I have any strategy. Well, this was my thought process behind it. So.
Okay. So where did you take your position? And what time?
Go to clear the chart, or like just open another chart, and then I'll annotate on here.
Okay. So what time frame do you want it?
On the 1 hour, that's fine.
1 hour.
And I journaled this trade. I put everything. I have trades list, so they have a section where you can put like a strategy. So I kind of just made up like what happened or what my thought process was. So
yeah, cool.
This was like Asian pre-London, and then I took this first buy when we started creating the support here. I mean, it's kind of already.
Yeah. Like around 1920 sorts of areas.
My bad, I already had that.
That's all good. Was your entry around 1920?
Yeah, 1920. Once it started creating support, and that was my first entry.
I mean, let's just look on the small time frames, right?
Well, this is just gonna be me telling you about my trading, right? So
Yeah.
I entered 2 positions, risking 1%. So I was 2%. So realistically, I only should have entered 1 position.
Was it a stacked entry?
No, it was literally just like me imposting. Like my plan, like as soon as I was literally supposed to just enter 1 position, but
Yeah.
as soon as I opened the trade, I entered 2, and I was like, why the hell did I do that? I could have closed it, but
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I just held it. So I had 2 positions right there at 1920, and then like 2 hours went by, and then we started pushing down, and then I didn't even. You see, this was like I didn't even look like if to the left to see if we had any rejection or anything. I just thought, okay, well, because this happened like we were trickling like right here, and then we had these 3 candles in the like. I felt like this happened really faster than all this, so I was like, this looks like it could be liquidity. So I took another buy at 1912.
Yeah.
I took 2 more buys at 1912. So at this point, my stop loss for the first 2 positions was 19 under here. It was under here, so it was 1903. So I had 2 positions for 100 and what is that? 1920
buys, right?
It was 340 for the 2 positions, the first 2. 340 pips for the first position. It was just like
340 for the first position. So
yeah.
This
and
one's only 100
down,
and something, so it's actually a lot further down then.
It was... Wait, what?
340 pips, you said?
But I had 2 positions. So
total
right
of 340.
Yeah, the first 2 was total of 340, right?
Yeah, okay.
And then...
I mean, let's just break this down, right? So what were you looking for to happen?
I was just anticipating that this was like support, and then this would just trickle back up, and anticipate that this was already our liquidity grab, that this was enough liquidity.
Yeah,
that's
okay,
what I was
so
thinking.
If you entered around here, right, I would say it's difficult to enter there, right? This was during Asian, right? I think we started breaking down when we had this massive drop last night, and then I was like, yeah, don't trade, right? Because there's no structure, right? There's no structure here. You don't know what it's going to do. You had this massive push up, so you could get a massive retracement, or you could continue to push up bullish. But we understood that the daily had no top wick, right? The 4-hour also didn't create many bottom wicks and just continued to drive up, right? These weren't really bottom wicks as well, and massive push up. So there wasn't structure there. I would be very careful trying to because at that point.
So when you say like structure, like this is like, what are you looking for? Because I know that like, are you okay? So you're looking for we're the higher high, and then we come down. I put this in my strategy. I put anticipating that this would be. I just kind of made it up, right? Like I was anticipating that this was our higher low, but realistically, for this to be our higher low, we would need that to break first, right?
So what I look for when it comes to like overall structure is, for example, let's say we're just on this 1 hour. I'm just going to draw on this side, yeah? So price came up from these areas, wicked up to here, went up all the way to here, right? Faked out to come down, right? You're in this range now. I would be looking for a price to like start ranging a little bit, and then potentially ranging down here as well. So this is structure, whereas there's nothing there. Right, I don't know if this is the range. I don't know if this is the top of the range, or this could have just been a quick small liquidity to just like to start driving further down. Like evidently it was, right? And then you had some sort of like doji candle here on the hourly, and then it started driving down again. But once this forms, understand that okay, this is your range 1, this is your range 2, and then once you have that, I can understand if price wants to break out of these ranges, it needs volume. Right. Whereas this, I don't know where it's grabbing volume or where it's grabbing like liquidity or volume to drive in any direction. Does that make sense?
No, I'm kind of getting lost. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay, so essentially with this, right? You had your entry, let's say, was here. You haven't confirmed what range you're in, right? You haven't filled the range. You haven't retested the top of the range or the bottom of the range, right?
All you've done this, right? Like this just
all you've done is like, I mean, if we get rid of everything and then we just go back to here, right? Let's say you got your entry here. This is all you saw, right? If I remove all the drawings, how do you know what is the bottom of the range?
Right, because I could have said the same thing if I just like looked, let's say like right here, right?
Yeah, I can maybe say you potentially had a top of the range
I
around
had
here.
also said this because like these candles, like if they had just slowed down a little bit more, right? But then we just had that drop, so that
Yeah,
really didn't.
yeah, but like for example, like this, like I don't know where the range is. The next candle, oh, grab further down. Is this a range? I haven't closed bullish, right? This is a doji candle. Like it hasn't done anything, and then this just pushed down. I still don't have a range. I can't trade this. Start pushing down. What is it going to do? Okay, is this the top of my range? Cool. Are we respecting certain things? Like, and then now look, I've formed some support here, right? I see I have this and I have this, right? So at some point, this is being respected, right? And you're breaking above. What do you do afterwards, right? You also respected this, right? So maybe this is the top of the range, right? And if you look on the 15 or whatever, yeah, look, you see you have some level of support here, right? This is what I mean by ranges. Because then once I have this range on the hourly, right, I can understand that at some point you're in between here and here. You've broken out, so we're looking for liquidity to come up, right? Because either this was liquidity for us to continue driving up, or this could have just been a range, right? If this is a range and you're breaking above, we're looking for either a celery and then also potentially, like a candle coming down, break up the lows, and then a flip.
Look for the liquid. My bad. I was just gonna say you could play both, right? You could look for the wick, the wick right there, and then you could play the breakouts. No.
Yeah, you can play both. Yeah. So, but only at this point, I can confirm. Look, you have some level of resistance here. You came down, you retested the tops, you rejected, right? You have a candle here. This is the hourly candle, right? And then here you rejected again. You faked out back into the range. So we're expecting this to probably come down to fill 1915, right? And then now we're just here, right? So we're expecting at some point, because you faked out, there could be another range around here. Range around here, right? You have some sort of, because this is the hourly, so you could, if you zoom in more, like this is probably some range as well. On the 30, this is a range. On the 15, this looks to be a range as well, right? So if you now establish the fact that you're in a range here and you're also in a range here, then cool. What am I looking for? I'm looking for potentially a range 2 breakout, right, to continue back up. Because if it just breaks above here, I don't know if this is going to be a fake out to come back down. But if it kind of does this and then starts breaking these highs, I might look for breakouts here, if like off here. Or I could be looking for this to come down, grab this liquidity to go back up, right? And then I could get potential wick entries here. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's what I mean by ranges. Like if you don't see a lot of this forming, and then like, I mean, if you just go back to this, like this, for example here, like how could you trade this? You can't. You just don't know, right? You may have been able to trade it when you had like a breakout above here, right? And then maybe when it faked out and then started closing bullish again. But again, you do need these candles. You need some bearish closures. This is difficult to trade. If you were holding, that's fine. But for example, is this gonna is it gonna reject? Like, I don't know. This is difficult to trade. That's why we look for generally some ranges, and then that's why we look left, right? We look left so that we can get more candles. Oh, I can't go back. But yeah. Yeah, I hope that makes sense.
Okay, wait, hold up. Why'd you say this would? I just want to, because I want to. You said this would be difficult to trade because you didn't get that same.
Okay, yeah, let's just look at this really quickly, right? Let's say you had some level here, some level here. This is the 15. Maybe let's go to the 30. Yeah, cool. Let's look left. What is happening here, right? You maybe had a range here, you maybe had a range here. So at some point, cool, price maybe is just in a range. If it's in a range here, it's tested out, right? And it's like broken above, right? We're looking for that bottom wick potentially to come back into these areas, break this previous candle low. It didn't happen, right? There was so much volume in the markets. We were looking for this bottom wick, flip, right? Because we're understanding it's breaking above. You could have taken the flip here as well once it was creating bottom wick, but I would have been looking for that bottom wick further down, which didn't happen. But yeah, so that's how you would have traded this range. Because you had something here, you could trade this. But like for this, you're having no bottom wick, no bottom wicks, right? At any given point, it could just create the bottom wick and then start driving down. You just don't know, because you don't know where the ranges are. You don't know, like the higher time frame ranges. This is what we're talking about, right? The higher time frame was just one candle. There was no range. Yeah, does that make a little bit more sense? I'm happy to go through this like every single day until you until you get it. Yeah, but just like try to absorb what you can from the streams, and then from Don as well, right? And then over time.
Don has like what I'm asking about ranges. I think he has a section in the course, right?
Yeah. So review that if you have time.
Yeah, I will.
But yeah, like if you just again, you can come back tomorrow and just ask the same question, and I'll explain it again.
Cool.
Yeah, this is why I wanted to be interactive.
That position though is funny. It played out, but I just like I need to go through it. Just but like yeah, like you said, there was no structure, so realistically, I shouldn't have took it. But
yeah, I mean, like I wouldn't say it played out.
I followed my. Go ahead.
I wouldn't say it played out. Like if you were here, right? Say you did get in the buys here. These buys are probably better because you drove down aggressively. You didn't grab liquidity to drive down, right? So these could have been liquidity buys to go up, but these buys here, I would have tried to get out. You had many opportunities to get out break even, I would say. Yeah, if it just wasn't your plan, then I would look to get out at break even or a small loss as soon as you can. Because then you're gonna feel like a lot of emotions, right? Like, oh, is this actually like a trade that I'm confident in? If not, then it's like, shit, should I stay in there? Like,
God. Like the way I basically just like I didn't even base it. I feel like I didn't base it off technicals. I just based it off. I know I can risk 500 pips, so I just based it off that, right? So I had my stops all right here for 500 pips, and then I had my second positions right there, and then when we entered up here, I closed.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, as long as you understand like a little bit more of like the kind of ranges that we want to play, why we wouldn't have taken that position. I mean, if you ask yourself again with more knowledge now, would you have taken the same position?
No, yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, so reviewing trades is good, and like I'm glad you kind of brought a trade here so we can break that down. But yeah, sounds good. This is why I wanted the Zoom, right? So you can ask me actual questions, and if you don't get it, you can ask again and again, right? Instead of just typing it out. And it's like if you wanted to type all this out, this would be an essay.
Yeah.
Right? It's just impossible to type out. You don't have like your fingers are not that quick. So yeah, we'll get some more people. I think. Do I not trade with trend or only looking wicks? I do trade with the trend. So for example, if price starts, I don't actually have my levels anymore, and I can't be bothered to get them again. I think we had like a buy towards like 1903 was 1913. I think was our first. 1914, 19 whatever. Yeah, I think something like this was our first position. But like currently, I would say your trend is still bullish, right? We're looking for this to flip, but I would say it's difficult because you didn't have a top wick here, so I'm not too sure if price is going to come like start driving back up, or if this was a fake out and then we're going to start driving back down. But you did respect 1920 on the 4 hour and on the daily, right? This level around here. So because you respected, this could be accelerated to pop back up, but I would need a bottom wick first, and that's either 1914. I think my lowest level was no, not that low, but like around these areas, like 1903, 1901 sorts of areas. But yeah, I do look mainly for wicks and liquidity, but against trend, I would look for more breakouts. With trend, I'm happy to take wick entries. But yeah, so that was the kind of, I think the Zoom timed out, so I might have to buy premium Zoom. But yeah, essentially that's kind of what Zoom gets you guys, yeah? So I think a couple of you guys have already mentioned you wanted to join, so just send me a message again on Discord. I'm going through a bunch of people at the moment and slowly adding them on. But yeah, that's about it. I think I'm going to call it here. Sorry I was late again for a couple minutes, right? But hopefully, I think tomorrow's going to be it's the same. We're going to break this down. I'm going to be on time, and yeah, I'll hopefully see you guys tomorrow. And if you want the levels again, just go back into the video and then just use those levels. And if you're trading Wix's stream, make sure to have a stop loss, right? Understand his analysis as well. Have ownership over those trades, and try to understand, right? You want to be learning as you go. Just on Discord, I think just DM me, just in general. If you just right click me and then just DM, should be good. But yeah, cool. Right, cheers guys. I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you for being here, and thanks for the likes and everything. Thanks for the engagement. Yeah, cool. See you guys tomorrow.